coming at you live with something I've been working on for a couple years. As y'all know, I like to do music, but another big passion of mine is just writing in general. I actually do have a story I've been writing. It's about a character I've created. I hope to one day make this like an anime or something. That dreadful night, All Hallows Eve, everything was quiet. Scarecrow had released a chemical attack that the world had never seen before, unleashing the primal and vicious nature of the citizens of Gotham. But yet Batman stood tall one final time against his enemies, bringing them all to justice and unmasking the Arkham Knight, revealing it was Jason Todd this whole time. This wave of crime had died down in the meantime, but there were worse things still to come. Batman had just given up the cowl, leaving Gotham without a defender against the various supercriminals inside her walls. Then began Knightfall Protocol. The city needed a new legend, someone, or in this case, something, to rise from the ashes of the Batman. Gotham needed something much worse and darker than Batman. That's where Marcus came in, already having established himself as a terror to the criminal underworld that had gone silent. The city was none the wiser to the new legend lurking in the shadows. He remembered the words that Bruce spoke to Marcus before he died. "Will I see you again?" Marcus asked Bruce as he saw him put his cowl down at the base of the bat symbol. That gave so many people hope. So many people. The bat symbol to Gotham is almost like the cross to anyone else, because Batman truly did try to show all of his enemies love and kindness. He never wanted to kill them. But this new person who is coming in, he isn't Batman. He is something much, much worse. But he is here to clean the absolute trash that is filtered all through Gotham from top to bottom. Bruce then spoke up once more. No one will. Gotham needs something more, something worse to defend her. She needs a new myth, a legend more powerful than I can be right now. A legend that can only rise from the ashes of the Batman. Bruce's footsteps echoed on the concrete of the rooftops they were on. Despite all their differences, despite everything they had gone through, he still entrusted the guardianship of the city he cared so much more to Marcus. He fully believed, no, he knew that Marcus and subsequently Wraith would be able to pull this city out of the dark, impending wave of crime and darkness that was going to sweep its streets. Little did they know that the darkness had already befallen upon them. But this is a fairly emotional moment for both of them. Marcus can feel his resolve cracking as much as he has mixed emotions about this man. This is the man that gave him his life. This is the man that gave him his name. This is the man that gave him a second chance to be something more than just a weapon. Something more than just a soldier trained from birth. To be the ultimate killing machine for the Court of Owls. After he escaped and was on the verge of death, sickness consuming and ravaging his body from the time he spent in the sewers. As he laid there in the streets of the rain when that man approached him, the man that the Court of Owls told all the Talons in training, that you should be fearful of. He is a man you are not ready to trifle with yet. But yet here he was, raising him as his own. Even after all the times he had messed up and betrayed him. Even after all the times he had broken the code of no longer killing. Bruce realized that Gotham couldn't be saved like this. It was going to die if he tried to do it through his ways. So in came Marcus, a man with plenty of rage behind him. But all he could feel right now is regret and sadness. Bruce was gone. He was leaving for good. No one was going to be able to find him. And just like that, they locked eyes for a moment. Marcus choked back the emotions he'd been harboring for years. Bruce, before you go, there's something I need to tell you. Bruce's eyes turned around and looked directly towards Marcus as he had turned away for the moment, looking towards the symbol that lit up the sky one more time before he had left. The hatred and contempt he was so used to seeing in Bruce's eyes were gone. They were replaced with pride. A smile crept over his lips that scared him even more than any look of hatred or scorn he had ever seen from his adopted father. I know, son. I love you too. This is goodbye. Be everything I know you can be. It's become clear to me that my ways can no longer save this city, so do as you see fit. Just don't become what you set out to destroy, he said as he placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. He could see the emotion Marcus was holding back. He knew he was entrusting the city to the right person. The two said nothing but exchanged a stare that has said enough words to fill an entire novel. And just like that, Batman was gone. And Bruce was gone. Shortly after they had parted ways, Marcus looked back, hoping to see Bruce still walking, at least on the roof. He hadn't made his escape yet, but in classic Batman style, he had already vanished, gone into the wind. Marcus, a professional at performing disappearing acts since darkness was his very domain, felt like Bruce did it even better than him, and that was the impressive part. He watched the broadcast where Wayne Manor Wayne Manor. Oh my God, I said Wayne Manor. Oh, that is a cock up of the century. I got the words right in front of me, and I still mess up the pronunciation. It's a wonderful thing to be dyslexic, getting W's and M's mixed up like that. He watched the broadcast where Wayne Manor, okay, good, had been utterly destroyed. No one knew who killed Batman, and it was likely no one knew who succeeded where so many others, Marcus included, had failed. With the death of Bruce Wayne came a crime wave like none had ever seen. Without the fear that Batman had brought to criminals, they weren't scared anymore. If anything, they were emboldened by the death of the Caped Crusader. And just like 5 years ago, before the events of Arkham City, where the poison gas had been released, he terrorized the criminal underworld to a degree never seen before. The city was on the brink of collapse. Riots every day, looting, shootings, turf war, buildings being exploded. The city was a war zone. Without Batman, everyone was fighting for control, for they no longer had something to fear. They thought they were safe. They were never, ever safe. But when Marcus had vanished, he had left no trace other than a trail of corpses in his wake. And it seemed like he had to remind them whose city this was. It's funny. Demons normally fight to destroy. But this one, he's fighting to save. He may not have many good memories of this city, but so many people, so many of his friends that he knew had shed blood here, had died here. He had died here. He had shed blood here. And now, it was his turn to rescue the city from the depths of the ocean that was surrounding it. To turn the waters, the black waters of this city back to the crystal blue that it needs to sustain itself. He was about to pour so many gallons of blood that the red overshadowed it and then parted. The tree of corruption had spread its roots deep within the heart of Gotham. And all you could do now was torch it, burn, burn every last fiber and molecule of it till nothing remains other than death and corruption. A revolution was needed, something to spark and overturn the system of oppression used by the Court of Owls and various other villains controlled by them to halt the spread of death, to halt the siphoning of resources, to bring back to the citizens what is theirs, their city, what they built, but had taken from them by the criminals, the politicians. At least the police were on the side of the civilians, but with the criminals having so much firepower, it was impossible. It was executed by Lucius Fox to Marcus Wayne that he was to take control of Wayne Tech Industries, Wayne Electric, and all the other subsidiaries of the Wayne Enterprise, so it would keep going. This was because Damian Wayne was silent. He was leading a rebellion in the League of Assassins to hopefully try to fight back against the impending doom that the Court of Owls was going to impend upon Gotham and all of its constituaries. But little did they know, there was a new player in town. The resident demon of Gotham City himself, Wraith, the inheritor of fear. Streetlights had criminals hanging by the neck with ropes attached. Heads were placed on pikes and bodies filling the coroner's office faster than they could get them in the ground. The police were overwhelmed by the rampant waves of crime. Blood was filling the streets of Gotham. Gore could be seen in every dark alleyway. But through all the carnage and destruction, slowly but surely, the city was gaining a new symbol of hope. Something darker than anything they had ever seen. In a world of monsters, it takes a demon to fight for what's right. And that's what Marcus was. A devil fighting his hardest for those he loved, to protect all those... Fighting his hardest for those he protected all those years ago with Bruce. Back when he was a Robin. Left and right, bodies were dropping, and just like 5 years ago, the criminals became superstitious. They began to fear the shadows again. No longer were they able to hide in the darkness. Marcus stalked them viciously, literally from the darkness itself, killing entire squadrons of gang members, ranging from Two-Face all the way to Black Mask. He was poised to make a huge dent in the crime syndicates, waiting to first target the street gangs before going on to the bigger criminals. He heard the anguished cries as they begged and pleaded for their lives, as they were being ruthlessly beaten to death by a man in black armor with nothing but a red and off-kilter bat symbol. Something that looks like it's there to help, but not in the traditional way. It's like if Vlad the Impaler was just solo and doing all this himself. But Marcus didn't listen. Wraith was not here to rehabilitate. Wraith was here to end the problem altogether. He had seen what they would do when Batman wasn't around to stop them. But with Batman gone, he took his code with him. There was no longer a rule for Marcus from stopping Marcus from snuffing out the life of the criminal underworld. He did so in an increasingly brutal fashion. He fed Penguin to his shark, ripped the mask that was Sionis' face, and beat him to death with it, and finally set Two-Face on fire so that his body was fully burned, leaving a flaming bat symbol behind to show that while Batman was gone, something much more ruthless had taken his place, leaving no one behind to spread his tale of his terror to the criminal underworld. The number of dead bodies left in Rake's wake alone was enough of a story to tell. The public and the media ran rampant with the coverage of Wraith every time another body was uncovered. His legend grew, having amassed a kill count that would make even Deathstroke and Deadshot jealous. Where all the major gang leaders dead, Marcus was able to set his sight on the more powerful criminals. The public was safe in the meantime, but he knew the absence of a crime syndicate activity would make the remaining patients of Arkham afraid, and in their fear would come irrational actions. In the meantime, in the time of Batman, criminals treated him pursuing them like a very rough game of cat and mouse, but with Rafe, criminals were prey, and he was the predator. He gained a reputation as someone to be feared. If you tried to harm someone in his city, you forfeited your right to live if he caught you. Riddler was the first one to go. He trapped himself in a dark room with multiple hostages. Nigma had no idea the absolute threat he was facing, and how he had basically sentenced himself to death by his own actions. Threatening to kill the hostage if Marcus didn't answer his riddles. So Marcus responded with the riddle. Riddle me this. Who's a narcissistic man with a superiority complex who doesn't have much longer to live? I'm not Batman, Nigma. I'm not playing your stupid and childish games. He saw where he was, in that room. He was below him multiple floors, but the darkness of the warehouse they were in made it all too easily. Using his powers, he phased through multiple walls and up them until he was standing right behind Nigma, still shrouded in darkness. He deactivated his powers and tapped Riddler on the shoulder. Watching as he turned around, he saw the fear in Nigma's eyes as he saw the face of Wraith. He let out a scream as he saw the face of Gotham's new symbol of fear. A black cowl with a reflective glass faceplate that was tinted black, with two white eyes staring at him, with very long ears to enhance Marcus's already super sensitive hearing. Nigma's screams were cut short as he ripped out his throat and shoved it down his mouth. Grabbing him by the back of his neck, he dragged Nigma's corpse as he tossed it to the GCPD crew that had come to clean up his mess. Marcus was seen as a dangerous man, but not a danger to the public. He refrained from harming officers of the law as long as they didn't try anything against him. Even the police feared him. Truly, no one was safe from the terror that was Wraith. If you wished to cause harm and havoc in his city, you were met with Gotham's resident demon. Many other cities like Star City and Metropolis questioned why the GCPD weren't actively trying to arrest and try Wraith for his crimes against humanity. How barbaric he was when he came to fighting crime. Jim Gordon spoke at a press conference addressing the issue with Wraith. It's been 2 years since Batman has died, and in that time, Wraith has dismantled the Two-Face, Penguin, and Black Mask gangs, and just by what he's done alone has drove out the Falcone crime syndicate. While we at the GCPD don't condone what he's doing, we can't argue with the results. The streets are much safer for our citizens. Children can walk and play at night. Women don't need to fear alleyways where they might get attacked, and men feel less inclined to leave the house with a firearm. While he was and still is extremely violent, he has helped GCPD regain control of the city. We have apprehended the remaining gang members, and were able to confirm the deaths of Black Mask, Oswald Cobblepot, and Harvey Dent. And just recently, Wraith turned over the body of Edward Nigma over to our custody, showing us that yet again he may not work inside the confines of the law like Bruce Wayne once did. He is surely producing results better than Batman ever could. In the last 2 years, 3 major crime syndicates have been destroyed, and another fled the city for fear of death. Street gang activity and subsequently crimes like murder, extortion, drug trafficking, and human trafficking have all dropped to zero with Wraith doing as he sees fit. And I don't know about you folks, but I think it's pretty fitting that when Batman died, a demon took his place. The very same demon that tried to frame Batman for murder 5 years ago. While I do not condone Wraith's methods, I also can't argue with the results of his efforts. We here at the GCPD will not engage Wraith unless he decides to harm citizens or members of the GCPD. A flurry of questions flooded from the mouths of various reporters that were present at the press conference. The most prominent is Vicky Vale. You heard it here, folks, straight from the Commissioner Gordon's mouth. The GCPD is set to take no action against Wraith. And I know I shouldn't say this on live TV, but I for one am ecstatic about the Commissioner's decision to not label Wraith as a criminal. While his actions have been barbaric, they have been needed. It's time that we take a stand against crime. Remind criminals what could happen to you if you decide to harm other people. Vicky Vale looked over towards the camera as it had cut to commercial. She was finally able to relax, her body no longer being stiffened as she was constantly on camera. With the break in the action and everything that had happened, everything had quieted for a moment, but there was still this tension in the air. It felt like she was on camera, but this was something worse. And then a chill ran down her spine as it had hit the base of her spine by her hips. Bane had appeared. Bane had appeared attacking the GCB press conference with multiple armed men, all wearing his signature black and white styled balaclavas. Marcus knew this was going to happen. He had been tracking Bane and listening to his communications for months. He knew he was planning an attack on the GCPD, but little did he know it would be tonight when the police were out in force as they were. He was determined to repeat history like all those years ago when he broke Batman physically and almost mentally. The police were heavily outgunned. They were losing officers left and right. Marcus always hated Bane, not because he was a nuisance to deal with, but it was like looking into a mirror. Both of them had to deal with the mistakes of their respective fathers. Both of them grew up without a true name to call themselves. But they were both... But that's where their similarities ended. Marcus used his given name to help those under his care, while Bane used the name he gave himself to attain power for his selfish reasons. Marcus had been watching closely, knowing that Gordon was as big of a target as ever, and he still appeared out in public with no regard for his safety. He was here to show the public that, yes, we can do this. He was their guiding symbol now that Batman was gone. He was the backbone of the GCPD. He had always been the one in the trenches before Batman had came to be, and he was still here kicking. And by God, Marcus was going to make sure that Jim retired a happy man and a healthy one, and he didn't care what he had to do. Jim Gordon was one hell of a man, and he respected the ever-living shit out of Jim. Marcus was, to say the least, a sort of guardian angel. He always tried to watch out for Jim Gordon whenever he was in public. As the man was getting older in age, Marcus was still in his prime, ready and willing to fight anything that came his way. And tonight, he was going to get a very good test. He was listening for the sounds, but everything was quiet. Nothing could have been heard. Oh wait, I already said that part. Hang on. I lost myself. But yes, Jim Gordon had been through a lot in his life. But that's when he heard the gunfire and then subsequently saw it. How the crowd ran in fear. How the reporters ran for cover to cover the gunfight between the police and Bane's men. The public was going to get a show tonight. While Marcus preferred to operate outside the eyes of the public, there was no getting around this one. Too many cameras. But that's what happened when Jim Gordon came around. People were always wanting to see him. People were always wanting to promote his image and how he stood strong against crime, much like Batman did. But not as someone who is above everyone else, someone who is a regular man. And that's just what he did. He stepped right in. Tonight, he was going to show the world what happens when you fuck around with his city. He had been working on a new gadget, something perfect for this situation. A little something he borrowed from Black Canary. He cranked his voice modulator up to the maximum. He pressed the button and then plugged his ears and let out a sickeningly loud, ear-piercing screech. It shattered glass, it shook buildings, it dropped everyone to their knees. He aptly named this new attack the Demon Screech. But yeah, that's all we're going to get into now. We're going to save the full fight for later. I hope you enjoyed the reading I did for y'all. Sorry if it's a bit hard to understand me. I am, I have a lisp, but not on purpose, on accident. Alright, later.